안녕하세요. 저는 연세대학교 국제학부 4학년에 재학 중이고 그루미에서 IB 영어와 에세이 라이팅을 가르치고 있는 안재현이라고 합니다. 오늘 제가 제 에세이 라이팅 수업에 대해서 설명해 드리겠습니다. I moved to Canada during elementary school and finished high school before moving back to Korea for university. Currently, I'm a senior at Yonsei University Underwood International College with scholarship. I teach essay writing, SAT, IB English at Grumi. Well, writing is a fundamental skill across all academic subjects. The process of writing an essay is not contingent on talent or feeling, but rather requires logic and precision. In other words, it's a highly important skill that can be practiced and cultivated. So essay writing can be categorized into two types. Number one that explains factual information, and number two, one that argues an opinion. So in explaining factual information, you could read and summarize a novel. You could explain the differences and similarities between two claims. You could provide instructions as to directions or cooking or a set of rules. Number two, when you're arguing an opinion, you could analyze a text and formulate a claim about its purpose or its theme. You could choose a side in a debate and defend it, or you could examine an issue and provide specific supporting evidence. Explaining factual information is relatively easier and is targeted at younger students, around grade 8 and below. However, for older students, grade 9 and above, almost every writing assignment focuses on arguing an opinion. And this includes tests like TOEFL and SAT, as well as IB and AP. So just to give a couple of examples from different subjects for the two different types of essay writing. So in language or literature, when you're explaining factual information, you would summarize the plot of a novel. Whereas when you're arguing an opinion, you would analyze the theme of a novel. In the social sciences or history, you would explain factual information when you summarize an event, and you would argue an opinion when you're analyzing the causes or the repercussions of this event. In the natural sciences, you would explain factual information when you explain a scientific phenomenon or define a concept. And then you would argue an opinion when you're analyzing the reasons for error. So essay writing requires three essential skills. Number one, using language in a clear, concise, and grammatically correct manner. Number two, organizing and developing ideas in a coherent manner. And number three, analyzing the given text and identifying specific examples. Number one, use of language can be divided into three aspects: grammar, syntax, and diction. So grammar refers to basic rules about using the language. Syntax refers to sentence structure, how you vary your sentence, the lengths and types of sentences in order to control rhythm and emphasis. Diction refers to word choice, selecting the most accurate or the most specific word among its synonyms for the context of the sentence. Number two, organization can be further divided into intro, body, and conclusion. Number three, analysis of text can be categorized into fiction and nonfiction, while fiction can be further categorized into novel, poem, short story, play, and so on. Just as English class has no specific textbook and instead uses a variety of novels or poems, essay writing can be practiced through any topic that the student is interested in. Rather than limiting the student to literary text, I would find articles that pertain to the student's interests. If the student's interested in science, we'd read and write about articles from a science magazine or articles about scientific discoveries. Furthermore, this topic doesn't necessarily have to be an academic one. Whether the student is passionate about music, movies, sports, or something else, that topic can become the basis for reading articles and writing essays. For instance, if a student is interested in soccer, we practice explaining factual information by summarizing a professional match. We can also practice arguing an opinion by examining how one team was able to win or why the other team ended up losing. In this way, I hope that the student is able to study a potentially difficult subject with more enthusiasm. Ideally, the student and I would find a common interest and focus on that, because almost regardless of topic, there is a lot of material out there on the internet available for us to use to practice reading and writing. Of course, if there is a book that the student's studying at school, we'll focus on that. So student levels, I'd probably divide into three levels, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Beginner would mean that the student has not had much experience speaking or writing in English, or a student who recently started studying abroad or at an international school. An intermediate student would be someone who can communicate in English but their language is awkward, or a student who can convey meaning but their sentences don't flow smoothly. An advanced student would be able to speak English fluently but struggle to receive high marks on essays, or is a student whose writing lacks the logical structure and organization required in higher grades. So with a beginner level student, I would focus on grammar so that the student is able to convey meaning accurately. We often use an exercise book to practice lots of grammar and sentence construction, and we'd read texts according to the student's age. So given 8 weeks, that would be 3 times a week, an hour and a half to 2 hours per class. For an intermediate level student, we would practice constructing sentences and short paragraphs using a vocabulary list. We'd try to improve the students' weak areas, whether it be grammar, vocabulary, or organization. And we read and respond to text in writing. So given 8 weeks, that's probably twice a week, 2 hours per class. For an advanced level student, we would practice organizing ideas by making an outline before writing the essay. We'd read sample essays and paragraphs to analyze its strengths and weaknesses. We'd write essays that are longer and address more difficult topics. And again, similar schedule of 8 weeks, 2 hours per week, twice a week, 2 hours per class. On a different note, I can't emphasize how important it is for younger students to spend time reading and experiencing the language. Whether it's a book or an online article, the best way for students to improve their English is to experience it as often as possible and see how the language is used in real life. In contrast, older students should focus on the school curriculum. Reading isn't necessarily a realistic way to improve marks at school. So even if the subject matter being studied at school doesn't match the student's interests, the student should focus on reviewing it. Moreover, if the student is a beginner but the school curriculum is quite difficult, like IB, the student has to dedicate a lot of time and effort. So I don't think that the ability to write quickly is necessarily the hallmark of a good writer. That being said, using time efficiently is important, especially in an exam situation where time is limited. In order to write efficiently, you should create a good outline before you start writing the essay. Your outline should include your thesis, the topics of each of your body paragraphs, and the specific examples you'll use in each body paragraph. This way, you'll be able to identify any potential problems with organization or structure before you write. At first, you should practice by writing out the whole outline, but as you improve, you'll be able to do a lot of the work in your head, which will in turn save time for the writing. I feel like essay writing is a skill that's not very well taught at most schools. Often students are simply assigned to write an essay without being told how to structure one. They're expected to produce in-depth analysis and demonstrate strong use of language without being shown what either of that entails. So in that sense, I'd like to explain specifically the different aspects of writing an essay, as well as providing a clear framework that students can use for essay writing. I'd also tailor the curriculum in terms of reading material and writing topics for a particular student's needs and interests. Although this subject can be difficult, I'll hopefully be able to make this class beneficial and interesting.